I actually only got into college because my mother, who was a professional writer, she wrote my college essay, and it was like, it was so good. Like the college contacted me to be like, you know, you're not a traditional student, but my goodness, that essay was something else. You're in. So I got to go to school.
How was she okay with that?
She knew. She's like, well, John's not gonna do. I'd put off doing the application.
Yeah.
I was a terrible student with no motivation, you know, and so she felt like if I can just get him in the door.
Do you remember what the essay was about?
Yeah, it was about. So I had a very close friend of mine who passed away. Not to turn this into a dark conversation, but it was basically about like my last interaction with him before he ultimately overdosed. And so it was like a very poignant essay written by somebody else about my experiences. But it was like a very powerful essay that clearly spoke to the admissions board. And then they let me in.
Wow.
And then I promptly, in my first semester in college, have been given this golden ticket, John, here you go to college. And I think it was like I had 36 violations of just bad behavior. Nothing significant, all minor.
36?
Noise violations, like leaving trash in the hall, like just being a stupid kid in college that's not taking anything seriously. I had at the end of the first semester, I'd been telling my family that I was getting like all B's and A's, like, oh, I'm going to the library all the time, doing so well. Grades come out 1.016 GPA.
Wow.
And they found out about my GPA at the same time that the dean got alerted to how badly behaved I was, because I had apparently crossed a threshold of a certain number of like write-ups in your dorm, the 36 somewhat write-ups. Apparently you cross a threshold and it goes to the dean, and they have to like review whether or not you can stay in school. Yeah. And so I found out that I had a 1.016 GPA, and the dean contacted my parents to be like, your son is very likely going to be kicked out of housing. And there was also a riot at the school I was at because our football team that nobody cared about lost the big game that nobody cared about, but it was an opportunity for the students to riot about the game we didn't care about. And so there's this huge riot that takes place on campus. And I really didn't do anything in the riot, but I didn't go in when all the police are like running by shooting rubber bullets at us.
They were shooting rubber bullets?
Full riot.
How do you stop a riot?
Full riot.
That's a riot. Okay, because that's
like
different
tear
than
gas and stuff, right?
It was, oh yeah. Like
rubber bullets.
Put it this way, I got shot so many times by rubber bullets that there were rubber bullets in my pockets just out of the...
You're kidding.
I got hit everywhere, but I got hit enough
hurt?
time. Yeah.
What does it feel like?
It hurts.
What does that feel like? It's like a sting?
I don't even remember. I remember it stung, but you're so jacked up. You're like, this is so much fun, like running around from the police.
So what was the riot like? Were you guys like breaking windows and like, you know?
It was like, what was it? I mean, there was some window breaking for sure, but it was mostly like this mass of people. So the school I went to is UMass Amherst. It's out in Western Mass, and they call it Zoo Mass Slamhurst. Okay. It's like a complete party school. It's like there's definitely an attitude within the school. And there's like 30,000 undergrad students, and nearly all of them live at UMass. So it's like this huge population of students that are in this part of Massachusetts that's like very rural. Like it's like a city. It's like a city of these kids that are like at a party school.
Nice.
And there's like a sort of culture amongst the students to like just rage and be wild like at all times. And rioting has been a thing at this school in the past. It's not like a new phenomenon. Like anytime like the Red Sox would lose like a big game, there'd be a riot at UMass Amherst. Like that would make the news. And really all it is the students would pool into the middle of this area called Southwest. It's like there's these different housing areas on huge campus. But Southwest, they have these towers, these 26-story tall towers that the students get packed into. I was in one of these. And I think it's actually literally the most densely populated area in the entire country, like per foot, is UMass Amherst Southwest area. But these 26-story tall towers, all closely clustered together. And then in the middle, there's like this paved courtyard. People just wouldn't go to bed, basically. They just stayed out, like yelling and screaming. It's the middle of the night, you know. And what started as like, all right, guys, time to go to bed. Like no one did. And then the riot lights came on. There's like riot lights set up on
that
campus.
sounds like they're asking for it.
But
that sounds like
it turned
everyone's
it into
like,
a riot.
into a riot. The riot lights come on. We're rioting right now.
That was
Reminds
really
me
what
of
it
the
was.
Jerry Springer, the ding, 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 and they just go to fight. Like those are the lights that come on. It's like,
But yeah, the riot lights came on, and it riled up the crowd completely. And so there wasn't there was really nothing other than like we wouldn't disperse. And so like the school is accustomed to these riots taking place where like lots of damage has been done in the past. And so they were like full send like riot police on horses, like everything. So anyways, I was just out for the bulk of the time. Like I was one of the last people, like a shirt wrapped around my head to fight off the tear gas that's like clouded in the air. And I'm like, oh, cool, went to bed, like no big deal. And then it turned out like the school was super intense about figuring out who was a part of this riot. And they have cameras everywhere. And so they set up this website, the UMass Police, where they just posted all these pictures of just random people who were out during the riot, and anyone could anonymously say who was in the picture and they would get like expelled. And I was in all these pictures and I've made so many enemies at the school already just from being a nuisance in my dorm that like I'm about to have a meeting with the dean, with my father, who's just found out I'm failing completely at school. I told him I was getting good grades. I also have to break the news that I'm almost certainly going to be expelled if I get named for one of these pictures, and I have like these horrible grades. So it's just a really pathetic situation I had completely put myself in. Remember, I've also been gifted the opportunity to go to college. My parents are paying for it. My mom got me in. And so I remember my dad came up to like go to this meeting with the dean with me, and he was like so mad. He just like didn't even talk to me. And I was like, I've really fucked this up. And so I ended up withdrawing from the school to avoid expulsion, essentially, and because I was like not going to be able to continue in housing. And so I went back home to Quincy, and I was living in my mom's basement. And it's so funny, like I look back at this moment, and initially I was like actually so annoyed with my parents. I'm like, why'd you make me leave school? I could have stayed. Maybe I wouldn't have gotten expelled, like my friends are there, that kind of thing. But then it like dawned on me, like, no, you're 19 and like you've done this, you're a joke, and you're in your mom's basement with no options now. And I think that was probably the first time that I like recognized that like, okay, I gotta take accountability for my life. And I wanna like not be this totally mediocre person who certainly had the aptitude and the whatever to be successful in something. Like I don't want to blow all that. And so I decided I would start by just like going to school locally and like get good grades. And so I didn't get great grades, but I was like getting B's at this local school in Boston, and it was like satisfying to get my life back on track to a degree. I'm like I was working at a gym. I was like biking at 5 a.m. to the local YMCA to work at a gym. And then I'd like go take classes at this local school. And so I was like kind of doing the things to like get my life back together.